Hey everybody, welcome to So Many Sequels, your book club for movies. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
Yeah, and I'm David.
That's great.
Great.
Welcome to So Many Sequels and welcome back in time to 1999, where we are celebrating party like it's 1999 Vember on the show.
No, wait a minute. Why are you just dropping back in time like it's 1999 like that? Like it's nothing. That's it.
I'm smooth.
We've been
like
looking
that.
for it. We finally found it. That can be the theme. Back in time, colon 19. Whatever. That's the hook every time we go back to a year. There it is.
Halfway through
Good job,
the month.
Josh.
Halfway through the month.
You
is
earned
the
your
time.
degree.
Wow. I'm glad. Finally. Yeah, we kicked off the month with Mystery Men. And then really, if you've been watching, before that we snuck in a 99 pick with the Blair Witch Project to wrap up our So Many Scares. But this week, we're going to talk about my pick, which is Office Space. Letterboxd describes this movie as... Oh, wrong one. It says, work sucks. A depressed white-collar worker tries hypnotherapy only to find himself in a perpetual state of devil-may-care bliss that prompts him to start living by his own rules and hatch a hapless attempt to embezzle money from his soul-killing employers. This movie has Ron Livingston, Jennifer Aniston, Diedrich Bader, Stephen Root, John C. McGinley. A lot of people I like. A lot are in this
Gary
movie.
Cole.
Gary Cole. How did it do in the box office when it came out in 1990?
Well, that's another story. So Office Space opened the weekend of February 19th, 1999. This is the middle of February, is commonly throughout history been known as the dump month, because it was not necessarily where you put your prime films. And, Office Space sort of met that expectation, opening at the number 8 spot with $4.2 million. That's about the equivalent of $8 million in 2024. It would not do much better after that, finishing its U.S. run with $10.8 million. So that's only $6 million more than it's open over time, which is about the equivalent of $20 million in 2024. We've been talking a lot about 1999. The nice thing about inflation-wise, 1999, it's been 25 years, and the dollar is basically doubled, so it's kind of not that hard to figure out some of the math on this. It made collectively about an estimate of $1.3 million overseas for a worldwide total of $12.1 million. The estimated budget at the time was about $10 million. So not a super great run. It just barely scraped past its production budget. But this film did do very well in TV and video on home sales, video home sales. So it did definitely find its audience over time. It would finish the year, and this might be one of the lower movies in terms of year finishes I've ever said. It finished the year as the number 100 film of 1999. So in terms of movies we picked out, this one is not necessarily the highest finish we've ever done. But it is, I think, more culturally relevant still than a lot of the movies ahead of it. Some of the movies just ahead of it are The End of the Affair. Just behind it was The Astronaut's Wife. We've talked about this many times. Number one movie of 1999 was Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. I won't go into the whole spiel again, but suffice it to say, while they gave this they made this, they did not have high hopes in it. So I don't think it got the full attention. We can talk later. I read a little bit about the marketing they did attempt for this movie, and some of it doesn't really make much sense. Mike Judge did not think the marketing campaign was very good. He did not like the poster. He did not like the tagline. So we can talk about all that as we get into it. But that is your box office rundown for Office Space.
Awesome. So I picked this movie because we were talking about it before, and I was trying to find a word to describe it. And you did say the word prescient, and that wasn't the word I was looking for, but I do think it's true. And I think it's part of what makes it, I believe, somewhat timeless, because despite the fact that this is clearly in what is now an outdated Office Space, literally, all of the aspects that drive our characters crazy are universal experiences for people in work. You don't even have to work in that type of office, I don't think. Three of us know what it's like to walk in and see an empty sheet cake, because we've all worked in news, and that's just part of it. And
Yeah.
I don't mind saying that. That's how it is.
Mm.
So I felt like it would be really fun time to revisit this movie because a lot of people are just like, look, work is weird. It's been weird in the years post-COVID. People don't know what work is anymore sometimes, and we're all just mad and we want to get paid more. What a great time to watch Office Space, a movie all about just like saying F it to the culture of working and slaving away in an office all day.
Josh, you said it was timeless, and I agree, because everyone throughout the course of their life has either, and still does, hate their job or hate their boss.
At some point, yes.
Yeah. And if they don't, they're lying.
Uh-huh.
They're lying to themselves. And that's okay. You have to do what you have to do to live your life. But everyone hates their job and everyone hates their boss, and it's relatable. But for me, the most relatable moment is that damn printer. Because I tell you what, in 1999 to 2024, no matter how good the technology is, when that thing says paper jam, and I know there's no paper jam, I want to beat it with a baseball bat. That doesn't ever change. That never changes. That's the consistent. That's where we rebuild, friends. We can all connect at that moment.
Yeah. I mean, did this movie set the stage for Smash Rooms? Who's to say?
Oh, you know what?
Who's to say? Because the scene is iconic.
It is.
Probably the most iconic scene of the movie is them smashing that in slow motion in the field.
Of course.
While gangster rap plays.
Right. We just kind of went into it, but what are some of your initial thoughts there, David?
You know, it's been
how did you relate to it, or did you?
Oh, I relate to it a lot. It's been a little while since I've watched this movie, but at the same time, it's kind of like an old pair of shoes. Like this movie will never not be relevant in some way. While some elements of office culture change, the change is slow, and some things are still as relatable as they ever were. I really like, I hope we get a chance. We'll talk about the fact that this is, I think it's safe to say, this is a Mike Judge friendly podcast right here. I think we're all friends of the Judgeverse.
We like him.
Or whatever you want to call it. We're all big King of the Hill guys. I wasn't necessarily like the biggest Beavis and Butthead kid, but it's funny. And Idiocracy, Office Space, all these. So there's something about how specific every character is in this, right? It's the specificity that Mike Judge nails with characters. So it's that aspect of it, and the performance is here really great. I love, although I could understand, I would be really interested to see how different people react to this, but I really love the juxtaposition of the white office culture mixed with the gangster rap music that is frequented in this film, because it is kind of just this funny juxtaposition. And while I could understand if you're a first-time watcher of this movie in 2024, there might be some having to there might be some slow, it might be kind of slow for you, or maybe kind of weird. I think that for me, this is probably, like I said, one of the most relevant movies of 1999. It continues to be. It's kind of crazy that it was the 121st highest performing movie, because in many ways it feels like it has outlasted at least 100 other movies on that list.
That's kind of the beauty of this month, and looking back at 1999, because of the fact that what makes it a great year, because some of the best movies were the ones that people maybe didn't see when it came out.
Yeah, I agree.
As do I.
Sorry. Fantastic. I'm glad that we're all on the same page.
I feel like you both muted at the same time, and I was like, oh, it's me. It's my turn to go. But yeah, no, let's talk about, if you guys want to, because I think there's a lot of, we can talk about the individual scenes, but let's kick around.
Let's talk about the characters first.
The characters, yeah.
Yeah, let's do a round trip around them, because they deserve it. Damn it. This is an opportunity for character actors to shine. And there were so many good ones. I'm going to start at the bottom with Dietrich Bader, because anytime he shows up, I am a happy human being, because he's wonderful. Yes. Wonderful character actor. He is so funny. He makes me think of just long-haired Oswald, honestly, like from Drew Carey's show. But when he's yelling through the wall every single time, it is great. When they're hatching their plan, and they're like, going over, don't tell anybody. Hey, man, I won't tell nobody neither, don't worry. Who is that? Don't worry, he's cool. He's just great. And then Stephen Root, performance of a lifetime. Gary Cole performance of a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. I want to go.
Those are some of my favorites.
I want to go on to Dietrich Bader for just a second, because he did say the first line that sort of elicited a real laugh out of Nikki, who's seen the movie before but had not really seen it all the way through. Because we talked about it. This was very common. This was on Comedy Central a lot as kids. But it's the line where Peter Gibbon asks, and he says, "Let me ask you, when you come in on Monday and you're not feeling real well, does anybody ever say to you, sounds like you got a case of the Mondays?" And Lawrence just says, "No. No, man. Shit, no, man. I believe you say something like that, you get your ass kicked." Something like it's just the delivery, the fact that he doesn't even move his face. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that. It was like, yeah.
And it's so real because, like, ooh, there are people who talk like that in any office. Like, I could think of people. I won't name you, but I can think of you. Like, people who do that. People who are like that one lady who's just like, just a moment. Just a moment.
Yeah, that's
they
her.
Just get in and they just talk
her
like
rehearsed cadence there. And then to move on, unless Josh, you have something else to say about Dietrich. To move on, I want to talk about Stephen Root because he's playing the character that this is actually the inspiration for the movie. Milton was a series of short animated shorts that Mike Judge did for Liquid TV and then SNL, and they said you should make a movie out of Milton. He was like, nobody wants to see Milton's home life, so I'm just gonna make a movie and Milton's in it. And
make a movie around him.
And man,
Smart
Stephen
man.
Root is one of my. This is gonna maybe be weird, but Stephen Root's legitimately one of my favorite actors ever.
He's the greatest He's one of the greatest character actors. I agree. Him and Kevin Pollak, they can both be anybody.
He's so good, drama or comedy. He always blends in to whatever the role is. He's hilarious in this, the sort of mumbling. And the thing is, we've all either been Milton or we've all known a Milton. There's always been somebody you really would rather not be in a conversation with, and that's Milton, unfortunately, because every time he starts talking to somebody, they're like, just go. I'm sorry, I didn't want to. I was trying to get about my paycheck. Like that, just sort of like mumbling tone that he finds hilarious. The super thick glasses that Stephen Root said were so thick he had to get special contacts so that he could actually see through them. Just great. Josh, any thoughts on Milton?
I mean, I love Milton. He's the personification of every bad day you've ever had at work. Everything bad at work happens to Milton. And yeah, maybe everyone does know one or they've been in one. But I just think that no matter what you think in that, you've all felt like Milton at some point. That's he's a very good avatar for the audience.
Yeah, and I love that immediately Milton goes to the most extreme situation he could. I could burn the building down. He just says that's his mantra to himself. I could burn down the building. I want to talk about more Milton scenes as we go. But, Gary, I think the other one you mentioned was Gary Cole, right?
Oh, yeah.
We got to talk about Lumberg.
Every time. To be honest with you, I'm kind of glad that we covered this after Mystery Men, because for a long time, I would get Greg Kinnear and Gary Cole very confused. Those are my Tom Keckner or David Keckner and whoever Josh can't remember.
Forgery.
Dermot Mulroney.
Yes.
Keckner was in town recently. I saw him on the news.
That's fun. Hey-o.
I don't know.
Well, I would always get them confused. So Greg Kinnear in Mystery Men is Captain Amazing. Gary Cole in here is Bill Lumberg. He is just, again, Gary Cole is another actor who just gives everything to whatever character he decides to be at that point in time. And so for him in this, his deadpan delivery to everything, the dynamic that grows between him and Peter and his rebelliousness and his ability to not control it but not really want any kind of confrontation is just, it's the dynamic is just really wonderful. And it really is his deadpan delivery for just everything, especially in that little fantasy scene, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, as a character, his nonchalant, perfect manipulation of his role of, like, basically his job is just to complain at people to do their jobs, right? I'm going to need you to go ahead and do that, and to, like, not really listen, like, did you get that memo? I'm going to make sure you get that memo again. Very condescending. It's very annoying, but it's feels relatable, even if you never had a boss who talks exactly like that. Just the minutia of having to have this conversation when we all know we all know. You want to tell me about the TPS report? God. And then, Gary Cole, another hilarious actor. This movie is not full of like bankable A-list actors. It's a lot of great character actors and great performers. And then pretty much the one actor who's sort of pushed in is Jennifer Aniston, which we can talk about in a second. But Josh, any thoughts about Lumbergh and his army of memes that he created?
I mean, he is a great meme king, right? Lumbergh is. He's just a gift. Like Milton. He's a good example of everyone's most annoying boss. Like, slow talking, never has good news, always wants more. Just generally unpleasant. Maybe slept with your girlfriend.
And of course, we've got Ron Livingston as Peter, who delivers. He stays pretty consistent over time. And I like his weird little character arc if you really sit down and think about it. He is so stressed and anxious about his work, and that is something that we can all relate to and feel for the most part, especially, again, post-COVID, trying to figure out some of these work things. And then he just stops caring. And man, sometimes when you reach that point, ain't it beautiful? But then the man cares a little too less, right? Gets a little carried away, causes some problems, but he don't really care. And ain't it true that the less you work, the more you fly? Because I tell you what, when I worked in news, the person who I worked with sometimes, man, they were bad at their job. But they would rather let them be bad at their job rather than fire somebody and find somebody else. And then if I screwed up one thing, because I'd hear about it, I'd be like, what the hell? That person behind me literally went to the BOK Center to a concert for like 2 hours. Ain't nobody say anything. I forgot to put the weather up, y'all. Calm down.
Still live. I think that honestly, and I've been in a scenario where, in a sense, you sort of, today they call it quiet quitting, right? Where you sort of like to say like, yeah, I'm coming in and I'm technically doing the job, but like I'm not going above and beyond. I'm not doing anything extra.
Fill the
and
bag.
Somehow, for whatever reason,
or whatever they say,
just put the fries in the bag, bro.
Sometimes that lack of caring ends up leading to people viewing you as more confident, and thus you get rewarded for giving up on
over the years, I have often seen lackadaisical work met with reward. I feel that is my experience in life, yes.
And maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's something to not pressuring yourself, and that somehow now, in Peter's case, he doesn't do any work after his epiphany. He doesn't even do the bare minimum.
He doesn't quiet quit. He literally just shows up.
He quits and comes in to play Tetris.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not exactly a one-to-one, but the fact that the consultants, right, we'll get into their scenes here in a minute too, but the fact that they kind of look at that and they go, man, this is a straight shooter. This guy knows he's upper management all over him. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so figures, that's how they would view that. To me, it's very funny. It's very true. Mike Judge, he was on one with this.
He was. He definitely was.
Jennifer Aniston, I also think she gives a really strong performance. She's very funny in this. I love her. I love her hate of Flair. It makes me happy. I want to punch her manager in the face for her. Like, I as a customer, if I heard that, I would be like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
She's right. If you want the minimum to be 37, make the minimum 37.
Yeah. Don't tell me to have more and set a minimum. Like, don't be ridiculous.
And I love that too, because that's sort of Mike Judge's cameo in this movie. And he's playing that manager role, and he just, again, a very specific type of person, and he just kind of nails those specificities of like, do you want to be the type of person who does the minimum? Is that the kind of person you want to be? And she's like, I don't care.
First date scene with her and Peter really spoke to me, because when you're making small talk, how often is it like a first thing you go to is like, so what do you do? Oh, what do you do? And everybody, again, going back to what I said, everybody hates their job. Nobody wants to talk about their job. I don't want to talk about my job. That's not what I want to do. But that we don't know how to talk to each other, first of all. But that is just always the thing.
And we never did. What this movie teaches me.
Yes, pretty much, because it is just like, I don't want to talk about what I do at work. I hate what I do. And so it made me think of conversations with people. And often I ask, like, what do you do when you're not at work? And how often it takes people to be like,
I think about work. What do you do?
Yeah. No, and
I go hang out with work people and complain about work, and then I go to work the next day. Like, that's a toxic cycle, people. It's okay to hang out with your work friends, but don't get into a cycle of just negativity.
according to Mike Judge, he said that 20th Century Fox, this was sort of the only sort of actress or actor that they pushed on him for the movie was to get somebody with a name recognition.
Was Jennifer Aniston?
And it was Jennifer Aniston.
What? They could have done a lot worse.
You could have, and she was up for it. She liked the script, and she said honestly, I wasn't getting a lot of movie offers at that time because she was in the midst of Friends, so it was not necessarily she didn't get to go do a lot of movies at that point. So she was up for it. She liked the part. They actually wrote a little more for her once they had her because the role was that storyline was much smaller, and so they wrote a little bit more for her once she was in there. And yeah, I think it ends up being a very good sort of B plot of this thing is kind of her and the flair and a little and an analysis of a different work culture. You know, restaurant work culture is different than office culture. So getting a little bit of that in there as well, but still comes with some of the same stresses.
Well, I'm glad that whatever they did, I'm glad that she at least got her moment to shine because a lot of times, you know, those, especially in the 90s, you know, women characters severely underwritten. But, you know, she had a moment where she calls him out and gets sick of his shit whenever she can't take, or he can't take her past. And he got it wrong. And so instead of like, you know, her feeling bad about herself, she had a chance to stand up to herself and really have a moment that I don't feel like was common back then. She was being shamed for something and she was like, how dare you? And she stood up for herself and like walked out. And like that, I just feel like was a moment that you don't see very often. And so if that was something that they added because of who they got to play that character, then great. I'm glad that they added it because that to me was something that was like, oh, good for her. Yes.
You know, there was a little bit about this movie though. A lot of it was on the page, but a lot of it was improv. John C. McGinley described the set as like a jazz session. There was a lot of figuring out some of the dialogue elements on the day. And you know, David Herman, he plays Michael Bolton in this movie. He kind of talked about
love everything that he does on screen.
Working on that
100%.
And everybody, you know, there's not a like a weak point in the film really in terms of the cast. Let's talk about some of our top scenes. And I already know that one of our top scenes is that cake sequence. And we'll get to some of the other big ones. But I want to talk about the cake. It's for me, there's one specific line that I'll never forget after I heard him say this. Is he's looking around. He's been forced to pass the cake instead of getting to hold his piece. And he's watching the cake dwindle and he's looking around the room. And he utters the phrase, the cake to people ratio is too high. Or the people, you know, and I was just laughing, and he's doing the math, and he's like, he goes, there's much cake, but there are many people, and he's so stressed about it. And then when that woman does not pass that last piece of cake, you can see the motion of her just stopping and eating it. Oh, I felt so bad for him, but at the same time, it was so funny.
Listen, this is Milton's fault. He did not learn from the first time. You got to stand in the back.
Yeah.
In this office scenario, you got to stand in the back. This is not a serve yourself. This is a pass around, and so you got to stand in the back in that situation.
And she's so mean, and my wife was like, "What a jerk!" Because she goes, "Just pass it, Milton." And my wife was like, "What a jerk!"
Technically, Milton doesn't work there.
It does turn.
So should he be given a piece of cake? Milton's great.
She was too high.
It's a good question.
My other side character that I love is Tom and his jump to conclusions. That he sells every bit of his love for that jump to conclusions, Matt. And it is beautiful when Samir and Michael both go, that is stupid, to his face. And Samir's just like, yes, this idea is horrible. That whole moment, it was also, for me, wonderful. Yeah. And then whenever he gets to show it off and you get to see the payoff of the jump to conclusions, Matt, and it is as dumb as you think it is, man, that is a great, like, B or C or D or F plot that they got going on there for Tom.
It feels very, I don't know. It's that character is also someone you know in The Office, is like the office worrier. He's like, they're bringing in consultants. You know what that means? We're all getting fired. You know, it's, he's so excited to pitch that jump to conclusions, Matt. The look on his face right? He says, so you got to come up with $1 million idea like the pet rock. And someone goes, you think that was $1 million idea? And he goes, the guy made $1 million. This is a future Trump supporter.
Josh, what about you?
I love his Peter's sit down with the Bobs. When he does what everyone has probably ever wanted to do, or what they said they would have done when they were in the shower after the meeting, which is tell the exact real truth of what's going on at this place and how he operates. He's like, I come in 15 minutes late I use the side door. It's not that I'm lazy. It's that I don't care. Like, I love that line in particular. And I don't know. It's a great scene. He takes full control of it and yet leaves them, like, excited.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I love their reaction because I think the part that always stood out to me is the part where he goes, I have 8 different bosses right now. And their reaction to 8 bosses, because like that's their main thing is to find inefficiency. And they're like, excuse me, I beg your pardon. And he goes, they're like 8? And he goes, yeah, so every time I make a mistake, I have 8 different people coming by to tell me about it. That's my only real motivation is to not be hassled and the fear of losing my job. But Bob, that will only make people work just hard enough not to get fired. And I'm like, oh man, from your lips, right? It's
yes.
I can relate to the concept that you have a lot of people at a certain point in the company. You have a lot of people over you, and there's a lot of like you say to yourself, well, my boss, well, technically not my boss, the guy who's my boss's boss's boss, is leaving or something like that. And
See, that's another thing. If you haven't stepped back in any of your roles and thought about how many people there are above you making a lot of money and you don't really know why, you're also lying.
Or thought about like, man, even if you did find a way to move up, like it's not like, how far is it to the very top? And you're thinking about like, what are they doing at the very top? Because like I'm doing all this stuff down here. What do you do when you're at the very top?
Nothing.
Yeah. You're having difficult conversations over golf games.
Right.
Maybe. No. But yeah,
any other call out moments we want to talk about before we end up recapping the whole movie?
I'm going to go with one more Milton scene though, and that's the final scene where he's on the beach and he's like, I asked for a Mai Tai and they gave me a pina colada. And I said, no salt, but there was salt everywhere. Big grains of salt. And the guy just blows him off. He's in the same. Life's not getting any better for Milton even on a beach. The guy just goes, oh, okay, senora, and just leaves. And then the movie finishes with some sort of like extra dialogue from Milton just being like, I could have this whole place condemned. I could send a letter to the nations and have this place torn to the ground.
Don't doubt Milton. He does what he sets his mind to.
Travel check to another building, another resort.
No, that's man. Right. He does what he sets his match to.
He does. I love that Milton burns the place down. Oh, we didn't even really get into the plot, which is that they try to steal.
They
try to Superman 3 this.
That Milton ends up saving the day.
Tertiary to the comedy.
Right.
They try to steal the plot of Superman 3, which we've also reviewed. Go check it out. And steal fractions of a penny from each transaction that they're doing. And it blows up in their face. They end up stealing way more money than they meant to. And though the sort of trajectory of this is set off by Peter being hypnotized and the hypnotist dying before he can finish the hypnosis. And so Peter just ends up in a state of just like, I don't give a F. And I kept expecting somebody to snap, like at some point somebody's going to snap and then Peter's going to go, what the hell have I been doing? Like he's going to like all come crash, but he kind of didn't need it. He kind of comes to his senses on his own. But yeah, what did you guys think of how the stakes kind of go from not that much to where we might go to prison very quickly?
I mean, honestly, when it wraps up with them being basically they get away with it scot-free because Milton burned the building down. Good. I'm good with all of it. I'm good with the stakes being ridiculous. I'm good with all that. None of this would ever be able to happen in reality. Like everyone would go to jail, I feel.
Yeah, they'd figure it out nowadays.
You stole the money and you burned the building down? God dang.
I mean, they're so blessed by the time the time they lived in because like it was gonna take like a full weekend before they would even notice that kind of glitch. And today they'd notice something like that pretty quick.
Right, but this is also the year that everyone thought the computers were just gonna die at midnight.
I was reading this article called Facts of Life. It was Mike Judge talking about the movie and FAX. And he said that he still really enjoys his work on this, but he does not like the third act. He thinks he could have written a better ending. He did not specify what exactly he would have changed, but he says that at the end of the day, he just doesn't really care for the ending that he came up with. He wish he had another shot at that.
I like it a lot.
Let's talk about it is good. I am wondering though, what's in his head? What do you think? We kind of skimmed around it though. Let's talk about the most iconic scene, and that's the printer beatdown.
Yeah, this is the scene that I think may have set the stage for the Smash Room craze. I don't even know if it's a craze anymore. I just feel like they're normal now. I feel like I can think of like 3 near me.
They're actually pretty. They're pretty common these days. I've seen them in a lot of places.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
This is by far, I think that you're right, the standout scenes of the movie. I love the music. We talked about the juxtaposition with the gangster rap. The music is very intense, and I think my favorite element is Michael going down to his knees to physically punch the printer pieces, and just like in my head, I'm visualizing it would probably actually hurt to punch a circuit board. You get little cuts on your fingers, but he's just going in on it, and they have to pull him back, and he's like, "No, I'm cool." He goes back at it again. It's so funny. It's very mafia style. Hit on the printer. What about you guys? What do you think of this scene?
I mean, I love it. I hate printers so much. I hate how big they are. I don't know why they're that big. They put out a piece of paper. Why is it so big? I don't know why they never work the way they're supposed to. I don't know why printers exist.
Why they exist?
Well, they don't work.
Why they exist in the state they do, for sure.
They never print. I don't like it. I did read that this was based on a real experience Mike Judge had. I don't know if he actually did that part, but his experience with a printer.
It was his. Yeah, I read that same thing. It was his desire to take the Beavis and Butthead printer out and smash it.
I think it's great. Clearly, it was therapeutic for a lot of people, being that it's one of the most remembered scenes from the movie. Everyone hates printers.
For sure. It's
All right, let's wrap this up. We're hitting the end of the show here. So, final thoughts. I love it. Like, I still love Office Space. Like I said, it's timeless to me. I think so much of it's relatable, and like maybe if it's not all relatable to you, you just haven't had that work yet. I don't know. Like, I think it'll come around. You'll have it. You will have the sheet cake thing happen to you eventually. Great cast. Holds up. But I think I think it's a 4-star for me. I think it's 4 stars.
Same. I'm going to go 4 stars as well. This is a movie that I can go back to anytime. I don't think it's necessarily like the funniest movie for me ever or anything like that, but this is like a solid movie that I don't feel like will get old anytime soon, despite the fact that it is still very rooted in 1999. But 4 stars as well.
Yeah, I agree. It is relatable even if you haven't had that experience, because again, everybody hates their job, and the rage that you take out on whatever technology it may be, a laptop, a printer, a video camera, piece of paper, whatever you use, a canvas if you're an artist, you want to smash it. And this is a consistent movie. It's consistently funny people being consistently funny across the board. So 4 stars as well.
Excellent. Right. Okay, let's play Letterboxd.
That brings us to the Letterboxd game.
What the guessing is going to be. We'll read a few of the most popular reviews of Office Space on Letterboxd. We've got 4.5 stars. The world would be a better place if everyone just did a little more wacky hijinks and class solidarity.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. 4 stars. This better not awaken anything in me. It might. 4 stars. If you don't like this movie, you probably just have a case of the Mondays.
Oh,
boo.
And then finally, 4.5 stars. Fight Club for people too lazy to do any of the stuff they do. Fight Club. Then in parentheses, it said me.
Yeah, no Fight Club.
Yeah. So, what do we think? That's a high praise from that selection of reviews there. Who's in it first this time?
You and Garrett are tied with 17. Josh, you won the last game, so let's let Garrett go first.
think that it's going to be well liked. I cannot decide if I don't think it's going to be higher than a 4. I don't think that it will go that high, but I don't necessarily think it will reach that level. I'm gonna go with like a 3.6.
3.6.
Okay. I
Okay.
think that's pretty good.
It's a solid start.
I'm gonna do 3.9.
Okay. All right. Well, shoot.
I don't know. I just wanted to throw off David.
No, I think that's a good. Man, you left me with a real.
We told you
option
last
here.
week what the actual plan, the mission is on our end.
Well, it leaves me in a difficult spot. So is it a 4.0 movie? Is it?
In my heart.
Yeah, I could see that maybe a modern crowd for this that maybe is new to Letterboxd watching it might not have the same kind of feelings. They might look at it and be like, "This movie's nothing happens" or something like that. I'll just
Welcome
try
to office culture, kids.
I'll undercut Garrett a little bit, and I'll say maybe it's a 3.5 or lower.
Okay. We got a little bit of a range here. 3.5, 3.6, and 3.8. Let's take a look and see where we're going to end up with. Oh, dear. We need a tiebreaker, y'all.
Whoa, really?
This is a 3.7. I
No,
picked
I
3.
think
Oh, wait, no.
that means
You're
I
right.
think that means Garrett's
No, it is.
1
I
point
thought that I
closer.
was one off. So yes. Okay, good. We don't need a tiebreaker. I was like, great.
We got to come up with a tiebreaker system.
We do. Well, crisis averted. That point goes to Garrett, which is a win for me because it wasn't David.
Swish.
All right, so
Climbing the ladder.
not a direct hit though, just 1 point. So that puts
Yeah.
me at 20, Garrett at 18, Josh in third at 17. But one direct hit, and it's this is still anybody's. We're coming down to the wire this year, guys.
We are coming down to the wire. The year is almost wrapping up. We've got a few more weeks, or at least a couple more weeks of party like it's 1999 Vember, or back in time like it's 1999. I don't care what you want to call it.
We don't care.
Whatever you
Just
call
whichever
it is
one.
what matters.
Whatever one strikes you.
So be sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting app, whichever you prefer to consume the show, to enjoy the show. Don't say consume. Ew. Consume? Yeah, go do that. It will help us spread the word a little bit more about the show. If you could help us reach our new subscriber goal on YouTube, that is really what we're shooting for. So you can go to SoManySequels.com and get links to our social medias and all that fun stuff and our past episodes. So we will see y'all next week with a probably new news updates episode and our next 99 feature. Bye.